When did you first kind of clock or notice that, like, there's a plane kind of flying a little low over the stadium?
All day this plane's buzzing us. And the band was like, what is going on? We're looking up and he got so low. If you're familiar with Memorial Stadium, well, he was flying so low at the end of the games, he was almost hitting the flagpoles at the lower decks. That's how far he was coming across that field. And everybody, even the players, is looking, what's going on? What the hell is going on?
Hey, Colts fans, I'm JJ Stankevitz, and welcome into another episode of the Colts Show, an Indianapolis Colts podcast. We are presented by Microsoft Surface Copilot Plus PC. If you like our show, if you like all of our shows, please rate, review, and subscribe on Indianapolis Colts Podcast. Subscribe to us on YouTube. You can follow us there as well. Today's episode is one I've been wanting to do for a really long time. It is one of the weirdest pieces of lore in Colts history. And here to help me tell the story of the time a plane crashed in to the Colts Stadium after a playoff game is John Ziemann. John used to be the leader of the Colt Marching Band. He is now the leader of the Marching Ravens. John is one of the key voices in The Move, which is the narrative podcast I did 2 years ago, telling the story of the Colts move from Baltimore to Indianapolis. One of my favorite people to talk to. John, it's great to have you back here. Talking a little bit about Colts history with me.
That's my thing. Baltimore Colts and Baltimore Indianapolis Colts history. Love it.
And before we get into the crash and kind of the event that happened, I want to explain to everyone kind of what was going on with the Colts back in 1976. This event takes place in December of 1976. Could you just explain what the team was like that year? The success they had. Burt Jones won MVP, their quarterback. Just the feeling around Baltimore when this playoff game against the Pittsburgh Steelers took place in December.
Well, you got to realize Pittsburgh Steelers are our arch enemy. And it was nice excitement. The whole city, the whole state of Maryland, that we were going to go to the Super Bowl. There's no two ways about it. And the Memorial Stadium was packed. And the excitement, like I said, in the air was we're going to do it. Absolutely 100%. And unfortunately, it didn't end that way because Pittsburgh cleaned their clock. I think it was like 14 to 14 to 40. So a lot of people that day, it was a playoff game, and a lot of people were leaving the stadium early. Thank God they did, or else it could have been chaos, and a lot of people would have lost their lives.
So the Colts that year, kind of like you talked about, John, they won 11-3. They won the AFC East. Burt Jones won MVP. He led the NFL with 3,104 passing yards, which today would get you like 20th in the NFL. They finished that season. This is a fun one I dug up, John. They finished the season with a 58-20 win over the Buffalo Bills. I'm sure you remember that game.
Oh yeah,
Those 58 points still stand as a franchise record for the most points scored in a game by a Colts team. So this was a really good football team the Colts had that year, like you mentioned. A lot of people thought they were a legitimate Super Bowl contender.
absolutely. We were going to go all the way. There's no two ways about it. Again, I can't tell you the excitement, but it was a shock. All of a sudden, we lost 14 to 40.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I reiterate, thank God it happened because a lot of people that day would have lost their lives.
Yeah. So a packed Memorial Stadium watches Terry Bradshaw, Franco Harris, Lynn Swann, Mean Joe Green, Chuck Knowles, Pittsburgh Steelers kind of walk all over the Colts. But we're not here to talk about the game. We are here to talk about what happened after the game, which is that a plane crashed into the upper deck. But the plane, and talk me through this, John. When did you first kind of clock or notice that, like, there's a plane kind of flying a little low over the stadium?
It was all day.
Like during the game?
During the game, the gentleman, Donald Croner, was a pilot. I think he was like 33 years old. And all day, this plane's buzzing us. And the band was like, what is going on? We're looking up, and he got so low. If you're familiar with Memorial Stadium, There had the upper decks, and then once the upper decks ended, it was the lower decks. Well, he was flying so low at the end of the games, he was almost hitting the flagpoles at the lower decks. That's how far he was coming across that field. And everybody, even the players, is looking, what's going on? What the hell is going on? And then at the end of the game, the band, we played a concert to play the people out of the stadium. And all of a sudden, if you're familiar again with Memorial Stadium, the bandstand would be like center field, 3 stories up, almost out of the stadium. And all of a sudden, we hear an engine getting louder and louder and louder. And we stopped playing and looked up, and here comes this plane barreling down on us, just coming straight down on us. And we're looking like to our backs, and we didn't have a chance to run. This guy was going to crash into the bandstand. What he was trying to do is land on the field. But then he had a little problem. The goalpost. He didn't figure that in. So it was the bandstand, stands, portable stands, and the goalpost. So he's coming down, and all of a sudden he realizes, and it seemed like he was going to dip down and he was going to hit the band. We thought there's no way we're going to run. It was a matter of seconds. And he came down, scooped up, hit the top of the goalpost, barreled to the right, went up, and now there's a place they call the basket between the upper and lower deck. And that's where the press has their cameras and TV has all their cameras. And a good friend of mine, Carol Hebel, who was a photographer, said when he came up, they could almost touch the belly of the plane. He went all the way up, stalled, came down, and crashed into the upper decks of Memorial Stadium. And thank God people were gone, because again, it would have been a disaster.
So
And we saw the thing.
this is like a single engine propeller plane that we're talking
Yeah,
about. It's not like a big jet, certainly.
no.
But when you saw the plane buzzing, and I mean, I think it's almost like incomprehensible today because airspace is so tightly controlled around NFL stadiums to say that there's a plane just buzzing a stadium. Um,
But
but
there was also planes all day going around pulling banners. This was common in all NFL stadiums, baseball stadiums. You see one plane go over, then another plane go over. You had like maybe 8 or 9 a day at a game. So, but when he got a little too close, that was the problem. Everybody noticed.
So, um, to kind of set the stage here. So Memorial Stadium is kind of this like horseshoe stadium, right? So you have like you talk about him trying to land on the field. This isn't like if you're imagining like a bowl stadium, it's not a direct like just, 45-degree angle down. There was theoretically a way for him to do it had those sneaky goalposts not been there, right?
I feel that again, I don't know how good a pilot he was, but if the goalposts weren't there, there's a good chance he had a chance to land on the field. What
So
he crashed in the other end of the field, I don't know. Excuse me.
so the fact that the Colts were blown out and lost by 26 points in this playoff game, you've mentioned it a couple times, but fans had filed out of the stadium.
Right.
They had filed out before the game ended, and had this been a close game or potentially even the Colts won this game, you would have still had thousands of fans in the stands for the post-game concert you talked about, correct?
Exactly. And also, you don't have players on the field. That's another thing. Whether he came in and skidded and then hit the other end of the stadium, I don't know. I'm not a pilot, but it would have been pretty bad. Exactly. Like I said, that it would have been a disaster.
I mean, thank God it wasn't because
Right.
I don't think we would be doing a sort of a lighthearted. Man, this is a weird bit of Colts history. Certainly, if anyone got really injured, so the pilot Donald Kroner, who you mentioned his name, he was injured, but he was okay after, and there were no fans who were injured. Correct?
No fans. Some of the police officers uh, had problems with like the smoke from the plane. Um, One of the band members I was staying next to, Mark Stith, his dad was a EMT paramedic, and he was in the stands. He was listening to our concert when he remarked to meet him at the end of the game. And he was one of the first men there to open the door and get him out before the police even arrived. And then he was conscious. And but like I said, the stunt like that was ridiculous. And it's funny that the plane was damaged, but it didn't catch on fire or explode. That's another thing that saved us because there was people in the upper deck, under decks leaving, going down the ramps. So I don't think it could ever happen. And I'm not saying it could happen again, but I think precautions, and that might have set the pace of NFL teams and all sports teams, the Donald Croner incident, as they call it. But
So, why did he do this? Why was he flying this plane so close and then attempting to land it on the field of the Baltimore Colts, who at this point in franchise history had won a Super Bowl, won multiple NFL championships, were one of the early powers of the first couple decades of the NFL's real existence, as kind of the front of mind number one sport in America. Why was he doing this?
okay, I'm going to give you my own analysis.
Okay.
To Croner. I think he wanted to do as a stunt. Um, he used to frequent a bar on York Road in Baltimore County called Swallow at the Hollow. If you came in there and he'd be in the bar, he'd sign autographed photographs of the plane crash. Yeah, I know, I know. I hate to say that, only in Baltimore. And then also, he was at a restaurant in Baltimore County, Bill Pellington restaurant. Bill played for the Baltimore Colts, and I guess he got a little inebriated and was thrown out of the restaurant. He then went to Essex, Maryland airport, loaded a plane up with toilet paper, blew it out, and bombarded his restaurant with toilet paper.
From the sky?
No. And then another analysis that I think that happened again was he was on a bus, Greyhound bus, and I think he stole a Greyhound bus with people. I think he just liked to do stunts like this. And the only amusing thing, the following year we're in the playoffs again, and then along the railing was a big sign stretched, the first annual Donald Croner Day. A little humor there. Whether you like it or not, that's the only thing. Like I said, Baltimore humor. But thank God, again, I don't think it would ever happen again. I hope it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I just think he did the stunt to get attention.
So,
unfortunately, he's no longer with us.
Mm-hmm. So I just take me back to you're there after the game ends, and you see this plane coming at you, and you see it crash into the upper deck of the stadium. What is going through your mind when you see an airplane flying straight at you and then crashing into the upper deck of an NFL stadium?
Unbelievable. There was silence on the bandstand. There was gas, but are we really seeing this? Are we really seeing this in our own stadium? It was shock. In fact, once we stayed watched, of course, the band being nosy, but once we finished, we got off the bandstand and we went down, of course, to our dressing areas. And my wife, Charlene, was a Baltimore Colts cheerleader. And I said to her, a plane just crashed in the stadium. She went, yeah, right. I said, I'm serious, Charlene. A plane just crashed in the stadium. She said, come on, let's go home. I said, I mean it. And all of a sudden you heard the sirens and everything. She said, you're serious. And some of the other cheerleaders and got around and said, did it really happen, John? I said, yeah. And also then other band members came in. But we were more or less headed to change our clothes, get out of uniforms. And then we parked on the side of the stadium. That was our parking areas. And we were taken around the back of the stadium to our cars by police officers. So we didn't have to go through the stadium or in front of the stadium because that's where all the action was. And there's photographs of them raising the plane the next day, getting cranes in to take it out. But a situation like this, again, like you said, it's only in Baltimore Colts Indy lore that this would really happen. And a lot of people have forgotten it, but some hasn't.
Where would you rank this in the where would you rank this moment in Colts history among the strangest things that's ever happened to this franchise? As someone who
Top five,
knows so much
top
about
five,
this franchise.
top five,
Top
top five.
five.
That's guaranteed. Top five or four, somewhere in the area. Because it hasn't never happened again, and I hope it never will.
Right.
But like I said, I would say top four or five in history and strange things with the Baltimore Colts, Indy Colts.
Do you ever know what came of this? Just in terms of, I mean, you mentioned the banner that was hung, but just like discussions around the Colts, around the playoff loss. Was it mostly about, oh my God, a plane crashed into the stadium, or was it like, yeah, they also kind of got blown up by the Steelers. There goes our shot at the Super Bowl. Like, what was the discussions like about the team in the week following this event?
I think, of course, it took away from a little bit about us losing the game. Because, like I said, something like this, again, I keep on repeating, has never happened before. Uh, but I think after everybody got over the initial shock, and again, thank God nobody was killed or injured or maimed. And then we just concentrated on 1977 of having our Colts go back to the playoffs, which we did. So, like I said, it's all through Baltimore Colts history books, photographs, pictorial books, which I have in my library. And again, I think precautions have been made. Thank God they have, especially if you saw the Super Bowl, how tight they were with security. And again, that should go in all professional sports, the tightness of security for the fans and the people at the games.
Yeah, I would be curious if at the NFL level this did lead to some change and some tighter procedures and policies and restrictions on airspace above stadiums. It's a question I'm kind of now interested to go answer, and maybe if I find the answer, I'm sure I'll dispense it on a future podcast, and I'll also let you know here, John. John, thank you so much for joining me on this one. It is a pleasure to talk to you every time I do get the chance to do so. Your wealth of knowledge of the Colts history is second to none. This is a story, again, I'm excited to kind of tell our fans here in Indianapolis who may have never known it happened back in Baltimore. It happened at the end of a very successful season, again, for the Colts. And John, thank you again. And thank you again for all that you did for the Move podcast we did 2 years ago. I could not have told that story without your voice as a key pillar, as part of it, as someone who lived it and experienced it. So thank you for that as well.
You mentioned the move. There's a new book out, maybe all Baltimore Colts and Indy Colts might be interested in. It's the most, I feel, creative and truthful story of the Baltimore Colts leaving, going to Indianapolis, called Midnight Skedaddle. It's thick. It's a very thick book, but it starts in 1953 and the reasons why the Colts left. It started in 53 on. And I think it's an excellent book for both Indy Colt fans and Baltimore Colt fans. It's, like I said, 585 pages, but the gentleman who did it did a thorough research on it. And I'll be honest with you, it shows the reasons why the Colts left. And one was the stadium. It was old. And that's the main reason. And that's throughout the NFL. When teams leave, the first thing is the stadium. So I suggest that for the Indy Colts Midnight Skedaddle.
Okay, we'll file it away here in Indianapolis. John Ziemann, former leader of the Colt Marching Band and current leader of the Marching Ravens. Thank you for joining me here on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
It's an honor. Thank you so much.